We wish Whakatōhea, hapu and iwi well. ACT supports this bill.
Jan Logie.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It's a real privilege to get to stand on behalf of the Green Party as our Te Tiriti spokesperson to acknowledge Whakatōhea whānau in the House today and to support this first reading and the step towards at least some kind of a chance to move forward. We managed to attend the pōhuri at Pipitia Marae and noted the kōrero from the paipai, reflecting on how close Whakatōhea were to getting to this point with Chris Finlayson. And yet, here we are 6 years later. I really do want to acknowledge the patience of the iwi and to acknowledge their sheer survival and resilience despite the deeply vicious practices of the Crown and colonisation. The culmination of Crown actions, including confiscations, land acquisition, that's what they call it those days, and discriminatory policies left Whakatōhea with profound challenges. These included landlessness, economic hardship, disrupted social structures, the erosion of cultural identity. The Crown's disregard for the treaty promises has resulted in extensive harm and suffering for Whakatōhea and were clearly serious breaches of Te Tiriti o Waitangi. And it is important that this bill addresses those generational harms. The Greens don't believe that we can ever compensate for those harms. And we also acknowledge, and I think it was in Minister Henare's kōrero as well, that in acknowledging that there is more to the history than is what is on these pages, that actually the importance of acknowledging what happened, we also have to acknowledge that this is not the full truth. The language is not the language you would use to describe what happened. It is a language that is able to be agreed with by the Crown, and the breaches of Te Tiriti continue even in this process. And we acknowledge you for standing and persevering for your children and the future. For the Green Party, Te Tiriti is not about property rights. It's about an enduring relationship between iwi, hapu and the Crown. And for us, it's essential to recognise that we do not believe Te Tiriti can be settled as if it were a mere transaction. It is more than that. For us, Te Tiriti o Waitangi is the founding document of this country and recognises Māori as tangata whenua in Aotearoa, New Zealand. These settlements are the culmination of considerable sacrifices made by numerous kaumātua who dedicated themselves to the cause and painstakingly collected ancestral narratives. This endeavour is especially poignant for those who championed the settlements but passed away prior to the witnessing of their fulfilment, and I want to acknowledge them in this House today. Within the fabric of settlements, we uncover those poignant narratives that weave together our shared history. These narratives stand as powerful chronicles of our past, forming a historical repository that resonates deeply with those involved, be they queer, kaumātua or rangatahi. The journey of unearthing these stories, I know, can become a path to personal liberation. And I hope that has been so for many of your young ones, and more to come. Moreover, the settlement process also gives us the opportunity to provide an avenue for the government to foster open dialogues within communities, engaging in a collective exploration of our national history. And this dialogue holds immense significance, acting as a bedrock for achieving harmony and justice within Aotearoa, if we would only take up that opportunity. It's noteworthy that these settlements offer insights into local history that often remain absent from our education system. And the inherently divisive nature of settlements I do need to acknowledge. I've yet to stand here in this process and experience unanimous agreement. There is always tension, and that is not as it should be. That is a result of the processes continuing to be forced by the Crown. And that the process that goes through this House, I hope at least offers an opportunity for that to be heard, and I hope that that mamae rests with the people here to enable there to be resolution in the homelands. So I do just want to briefly, and I'm doing this, we've heard the history repeated, some of the key points from the settlement in this House already. I will do it again. I feel a little bit bad for doing that because repeatedly hearing this trauma, I can't even imagine how that is when it is personal to you. I want to acknowledge that, but I want to speak to, particularly Pākehā in this country, to understand the depth of the wrong and the harm that has been done to Whakatōhea. So acknowledging that in 1840, 7 Whakatōhea rangatira signed Te Tiriti. And there was a brief period of glory building on the community that was already there, where Whakatōhea embraced technology and built infrastructure, developed political organisations to deal with economic and social change, and were thriving, is how I understand it. And then the Crown, the Crown landed at Tauranga in 1864, and Whakatōhea joined other iwi in an expedition to support the Kiwitanga. And at that point, several key leaders were killed in that confrontation, defending the land, and that created a leadership vacuum. And then, if I skip through inappropriately, I'll acknowledge, but through to 1865, where Crown forces invaded the Whakatōhea rohi following a declaration of martial law, and the military killed many Whakatōhea, including non-combatants, 10% of the population. And if I think about that in a context of modern-day New Zealand, that's as if the entire population of Christchurch and Wellington were all killed. And the impact that that would have on us as a country would be profound and huge. And that is what happened. That is what the Crown did to Whakatōhea, and they are still living with today. And then we saw Crown troops adopting a scorched earth approach of looting, plundering, destroying crops, animals, houses, equipments and taonga, destroying the possibility of rebuilding. Absolute devastation and cruelty. And then confiscating most of the land, most of the productive land after that. And then only 3 years later, Crown forces pursuing Te Kuti and followers through the Whakatōhea rohi, looting crops, burning houses and executing Whakatōhea prisoners again and again and again, with the murder and the theft and the brutality. And I just want Pākehā to hear that, to get it. And that when anybody is talking about treaty settlements as if it's some gift to Māori, I want them to get that there can never be a compensation for that degree of harm done in the name of decisions of this place. And that the $100 million, which has been mentioned today, equivalent to money that was given in post-COVID to the redeployment of forestry workers. It's equivalent to one mental health facility. It's equivalent to international support given to the Cook Islands and Fiji to help with their COVID response. It's equivalent to one amount to the Green Investment Fund. And when I'm saying this, I am not undermining the efforts to get that money. I'm putting in the context and the shame on the Crown that it is not enough. It will never be enough.
I call on Tamati Coffey.
Tēnā koe.